From the corrupt corridors of Wall Street to the lords of the City of London, from the gold markets of the Pacific Rim and the Far East, comes the guerrilla economist. He clears the fog of economic and geopolitical disinfo. Know the truth, see the trends, understand the players. Protect your future and family. The financial freedom fighter, a rebel with a cause. This worldwide transmission has been brought to you by the guerrilla economist, helping the world understand, prepare, and make sound decisions to protect your future and your family. Visit the guerrilla economist at roguemoney.net, spelled ROUGEUEMONEY.net, for additional information and service.
What is up, people? What is up? It's first of all, let me say aloha snack bar to everyone that is out there listening to us live. Today's going to be a very special broadcast. We have one of my favorite people in the whole entire alt media community, Dave from X22 Reports. He's going to be on. If you haven't gotten a chance to subscribe to X22 Report, guys, I recommend you do that. I recommend you smash the subscribe button because I'm a subscriber to X22 Report. I love the work that Dave does. Just a great, awesome channel, one of the best ones there. And also subscribe to us over here at Rogue Money, and also check out the website, roguemoney.net. I think Dave also has the X22 Spotlight, so check that out as well. You can follow Dave on Twitter at X22 Report, and as well as you guys know how to follow me, it's at the Rogue Money. Quick thing, I just want to run down a few announcements. In about 2 weeks or so, we're going to have our special... hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to be rolling out our special Rogue Money magazine. So that's what we've been working on, and we're going to be ready to roll that out. So I'm excited about it. It's going to be the title is basically 2017, the year ahead. It's going to be our take or our alternative on what the Economist magazine does every year with their year ahead issues. This is our year ahead, and unlike the Economist, we're not waiting till January. We're going to be launching it early before 2017, and we're going to be regular on printing it. So we'll print it and go to print whenever we feel that the information is pertinent, it's important, and it needs to get out there. So it's in-depth information that you're not going to get anywhere, not even on the website. It's going to be very exclusive. So that's going to be launched hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We have Rogue Money TV that's being built out. RogueMoney.tv. You can check out a lot of the interviews there. That's being fleshed together. It's still in its infancy stage, so I'm excited about that. And I'm pumped. It's a great day. I'm, jacked up on some beautiful coffee that a buddy of mine from Chicago sent me. I want to thank him for that. He gave me a little French press, and it was Indian Malabar coffee and Tanzanian and French Ethiopian types of roasts. Absolutely delicious. Got it from the Coffee and Tea Exchange in Chicago. Love it, love it. I've never been a French press kind of guy. I've had it here and there when I was in a restaurant, but for me to actually take the time and to do it, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Amazing, love it. With that being said, also guys, one of the things that we're launching the service, you guys know about the whole credit repair stuff that I've been having people on, this, that, and the other. We're launching our own. It's our own Rogue Money credit repair system. If you know anybody that's in debt, there's easy payment plans on that. You're suffering from credit card debt. You're suffering from judgments, liens, collections, people harassing you on the phone. Reach out to us. It's restorerepaircredit.com. I will have that on the description link on the bottom after this broadcast is over, so this way you guys will have it. It's restorerepaircredit.com. It doesn't matter if you got bankruptcies, judgments, if you got liens, if you have collections accounts, bad credit card debt, whatever the heck you got, we can knock it out in 30 days or within 30 days. That's our guarantee. So it's an amazing system. Yours truly this time is running the ship on that. So I'm excited to head that up. And again, we could only take a limited amount of clients per month. We want to focus on quality over quantity because that's key and it's very important. With that being said, Dave from X22 Report. Dave, welcome to the helm.
Hey, thanks for having me, V.
Man, it's a pleasure. I'm glad that you're
to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad CJ's helping out, my producer CJ, who is fluctuating the flux capacitors to make sure that this broadcast is coming out without any sort of flaws or problems. Ain't that right, CJ?
Roger that. Roger that.
That's right. That's my wingman right there. Dave, what's going on? What's shaking, brother?
Oh, there's a lot of things going on right now. Where would you like me to begin? Anything in particular?
I will hold out my hand to you, sir, and you, kind sir, can lead us all into the rabbit hole together.
You know what? I haven't seen The Big Short before until last night, and
Awesome.
I'm a little slow on watching movies. And I was watching the movie, and it was very interesting because I know everyone's looking at it and saying, "Oh wow, look how much money these guys made. They were able to short the market." But I was looking at it completely different. I was looking at it as though, look what the government and the central bank had the ability to do with all the other banks. And I know through the movie they made, you know, all the bankers look like morons. Hey, I don't know what's going on and things like that. But they know exactly what's going on. And when you watched it, and when I watched it, I saw something very important that stood out. And it was these individuals were able to keep this illusion alive. 2005, 2006, 2007, even when people were defaulting on their mortgage payments and these bundles of subprime securities were falling apart, the government, the rating agencies, the Federal Reserve, they were able to convince the American public that everything was absolutely fine up until the last minute. And what's very interesting about this whole thing, I know they only showed a couple people in here who shorted the market, but there were other people. But the millions and millions of people all laughed at the few who said there's something wrong. All the millions of people who were sitting out there, you know, saying this can never happen, mortgages, they just can't default like this, people always pay their mortgage, houses never go down, you're ridiculous, it doesn't even make sense in what you're saying. So you had millions of people on one side saying that these people are idiots, and then you had the few that were looking through the illusion, the few that were looking through the fog, the few that were actually going and looking at what was really going on and saying there's something wrong here. And this is what's happening today. I mean, look what happened then, look what happened today. There are the few that are looking at all the economics, the few that are looking at everything that is wrong, the few that are putting all the pieces together, the few that are saying there's something wrong. There's millions of people out there who are laughing. There's trolls that are commenting there will be no economic collapse, you're ridiculous. But think about this. When you go back to 2008, hundreds of millions of people were wrong. The few were right. And when it all was said and done and everything was completed, those few were prepared in some way. The few shorted the market. The few said, I know what's going to happen. I know it's time to sell my real estate. The few knew what to do. The other people had no clue what to do. The other people were being laid off. The other people lost their pensions. The other people lost their money. The other people lost almost everything. So when we look at today, and we look at your channel, Rogue Money, what I do, what Sean does, and everyone else, we are the few. Now, they can laugh at us. Right. They can mock us. They can do whatever. It makes no difference at this point because the few are actually looking at the facts. We're looking at economics. We're looking at the GDP. We're looking at retail. We're looking at real estate. We're looking at manufacturing. We're looking at what China's doing. We're looking at what Russia's doing. We're looking at what the central bank is doing. And we're putting all the pieces together, and we're saying, okay, this doesn't make any sense. Just like back in 2008 when the subprime securities, people were defaulting on their mortgages, and the rating agencies kept them at AAA. Continued AAA, no problems, AAA, no problems, and the whole thing was falling apart. Here we're looking at it, and we're saying, okay, the central bank is continually creating currency out of thin air. Now they play hot potato. They pass it off to Bank of Japan. They pass it off to the ECB. They do it covertly. We find out, you know, the world central banks now have $25 trillion of financial assets on their books. And they've lowered the interest rates since 2008 667 times to bring us to zero and to negative, to keep this illusion alive. Now, of course, the corporate media, they don't really say it in this way. They say how great it is and how fantastic it is, just like they were saying it prior to 2008. Look how great these subprimes are. Look how great real estate is. This can go on forever. And everyone continually forgets, yes, the central bank, they have the ability to create money out of thin air. The central bank, they have the ability to create bubbles. The one thing they cannot do right now, which they're trying to do, is to control what people do. Just like in the subprime fiasco that we had in 2008, the people, they weren't able to pay their mortgages. That's what started the whole, I mean, one of the things that started the whole thing to start completely imploding. They couldn't control that. So when people tell me, well, you know, the central bank, they can keep this going forever. Really, they can keep this going forever when nobody is purchasing in retail, when no one is purchasing a home, when no one is taking out mortgages, when no one is taking out auto loans anymore, when their delinquencies on auto loans are going up. Think about what is happening when people are maxed out in student loans and they can't find a job and they can't pay the student loan. When the petrodollar is under threat of being destroyed in the Middle East. Yes, they can keep it going, but eventually all of this catches up. And I didn't even mention the debt. But when we look at all of this, the entire system can be continually pushed forward and the illusion can be kept alive until one little thing happens. And that's when it starts to fall apart. That's when people say, uh-oh, we have a problem here. And we know, and I know the central bankers know, they know this system is at its end. They know that with the amount of debt, this is why they keep talking like, oh, we have to, you know, get rid of some of the debt. Not all of the debt, some of the debt, because they don't want to get rid of all of the debt because debt is their product. So we know, they know this is coming to the end. They know everything that is happening, just like they knew the subprime security. They knew that whole thing was going to implode. They all know what's going to happen, but they want to do it on their terms. And I think they're in a race right now because of what is happening around the world. And I think the clock is ticking down right now, and I think they want to bring it down the way they want to bring it down so they can control it. They have the narrative, the story. They can point the finger in the proper place. They can tell everyone this is what we're going to do. Because if you really think about this, think about all the things they put into place. I mean, just go back in time when they created the bail-in documents prior to what happened in Cyprus. The Bank of England and the FDIC, the Federal Reserve, got together. They created the bail-in document, and then it spread. Then they said, okay, this model works. People didn't do anything. We're able to shut down the banks. We're able to take the funds and give them worthless stocks. And really, people didn't say anything. They have that already in place. Just the other day, they said, the Fed came out and said, listen, if there's an economic shock to the system, we've looked at it, we've analyzed it, we've calculated, and we will need around $4 trillion worth of QE. Now, we know this is going to be a lot more, but let's just use $4 trillion. So if the economy is doing okay, why are they preparing all of this? Why are they even talking about economic shock? Why are they even calculating? And the only reason you do these things is because something's wrong. The only reason you put all of this into place, it's because something is wrong. And when we look at everything, we have many things wrong here. Actually, in many of the cases, a lot of these sectors, they're worse off than 2008. But they've mastered the illusion. They've mastered how to keep people in the dark. And right now, I'm nervous for people. I'm nervous that they're so in the dark right now, they don't know what's coming. And I'm not just talking about the economic fallout, because when we look at this, we have many other things going on here. I mean, we're talking about a system that will no longer exist the way we know it today. We won't have the same lives. We won't do the same things that we normally do. We're not going to go out and say, hey, let me get that cup of coffee. I can do this, I can do that. It's no big deal. People are going to end up with nothing in their pockets. I don't know if anyone has ever felt like what it feels like to have nothing, to actually not have any money in the bank, to have zero, not knowing where your next meal is going to come from, how you're going to afford it, how you're going to, look at the entire situation, look at your family, look at your children, and say, I don't know how we're going to eat tonight. Actually, I don't even know where we're going to live. I don't think the American public understands this, just like we don't understand what hunger is. There are many, I'm not saying everyone, but many people don't understand what hunger is, what it feels like not to have. We've always had something here. We've always had a handout. And what I fear is when this system comes down, it's going to be, I'm going to say, 100 times worse than it was in 2008. Now, some people didn't even experience it in 2008. Many people, they were like, okay, I have my job, I'm still working, and I'm fine. 2008, I was laid off. I was pulled into an office. Not just me, there was many, many people, and we were standing out in the corner going, what just happened here? And I was laid off prior to what happened in October with the market crash, and I was laid off in August. So I was let go before that. And when people say, well, you just go get into the job, it's so easy, guess what? Well, if you're being laid off, everyone's being laid off. And it's very difficult to try to find something because everyone's trying to do the same exact thing. So what I see coming now is something much, much worse than 2008. The people, I don't think they're going to be able to understand or realize what's happening until they're in it. And once they're in it, I think we're going to see a completely different America. I think it's going to be completely different. And I know that the system that we're in right now will end. A new system will be born, and many people have their theories on what the system's going to be. And I spoke about this a while back, about how we came off the system in 1971 when we came off the gold standard. I mean, think about what happened during that period. When we came off the gold standard, and I don't know if people remember, but I'm old enough to remember the gas lines, the odd and even license plates, the red or green flags. Yep. And of course, that was completely fake. There was no shortage of oil. It was because we're moving from one system to another. And this is when we're moving to a new system off the gold standard onto a new system, and we didn't have that much debt. And it was just that was a transition. And look what happened. I mean, I knew when I talked to other relatives, my wife's relatives, how many people were out of work during that period. Now, many government people and things like that, they weren't out of work. But in the private sector, there were a lot of people looking for jobs. Interest rates were very high. Everything was readjusted because the value of the dollar decreased quite a bit. So housing was readjusted, your salary was readjusted, and people were living through the good times. Now we're on the back end. Now we're on the back end of this system. It's the same system since 1971. We have this huge amount of debt in the trillions of dollars. The deals that they made throughout the Middle East are being ripped apart. The petrodollar is doomed. And the United States has no gold. Most of the people don't have any gold or precious metals, maybe just the jewelry they're wearing. We have a huge glut of oil. I wonder why we have a huge glut right now. I wonder if it's going to be a problem trying to get oil during this next crisis. Think about the amount of reserves the U.S. has been taken on. How much oil is out there right now?
Right.
All of this is for a reason. And when we come off the back end of this, interest rates at zero, maybe going to negative. There are some places in Japan, in Europe, they're all in negative. There are a couple of banks already that are going to be charging customers negative interest rates if you have 100,000 euros. And you know that number is always going to come down. They always start up high. Oh, don't worry. It's only for the wealthy, and then it always trickles down to every single person. But what is coming is just going to be horrific, and we're on the back side of it. We're not on the good side right now, where everything's going to be revalued, and oh look, my salaries go. Actually, salaries are dropping. So if you look, the opposite is happening of what happened in the 70s.
Right. You're absolutely correct, Dave. It's shocking to see where we are.
I know I'm ranting. So.
No. Please continue. Please.
No,
I love rants.
No, and I'm just saying, and this is why we've been seeing all of this happen all at once, where the United States, and government employees, I don't like to call them government officials or leaders, because they are definitely not. In my mind, they're all traitors to we the people.
Right.
And what I'm seeing is they never wanted these central bankers, the neocons, the elite, the 1%, whatever you want to call them. They don't like the Constitution. They don't like people having rights. They don't want any of this. And it's when you talk to people, they don't realize how important our rights are as a people. They don't realize how important it is to have the freedom of the press, which we really don't have anymore, freedom of speech, which they're trying to take away with all these free speech zones and political correctness and what you can or cannot say. That's really not free speech anymore. That's permitted speech. You're allowed to say this word but not that word. Free speech is you can say whatever you want. Yes, you might hurt someone's feelings. It might not be the nicest thing in the world, but you have the freedom to say it. Now, people can point their finger at you and say that wasn't nice, or they can ban you from something because they don't like what you say, but you still had the freedom to say it. Today, they're telling you, no, you really don't have you shouldn't say that. That's not the right word.
Someone might get triggered, Dave. Someone might get triggered.
Right. And also, what's acceptable to one group might not be acceptable to another. So it's a very hard thing when you start trying to permit and trying to box people into these certain words and things like that. But what we're seeing right now is this entire country being reshaped. And this is what the TTP, the Trans-Pacific, the TPP, the TTIP, this is what that was all about, because there's a little section and that was leaked out where it said that we're going to bring manufacturing back here to the United States. And the section that I'm talking about was bringing foreign workers into the country. But what they were going to do is they were going to pay them the rate they were making in their country, not in the United States. So when you look at that and you say, well, what about the American worker? How are they going to compete with that? It's going to be very difficult. I mean, right now I know Obama is trying to push the TPP in a lame duck session. Already the Senate is saying, I don't think we're going to push this or pass this this year, but we'll have to see what happens. But I can see this is where it's going, because they want to take the sovereignty away from nations. They want to control the entire country. They want to bring down your lifestyle to the level that the country is going to enter when the collapse is over, when the whole transition is over. And they have to bring it down a couple of notches to bring us into a world where we're more even to the rest, because eventually what's going to happen is I don't believe the U.S. is going to have the reserve currency anymore. I think it's going to be shifted either into, many people say, a crypto type of currency, maybe yuan, or maybe something else. We don't know, but I don't think the U.S. is going to keep the reserve currency. Now, they're going to fight very hard to keep it, and eventually that will lead to war, but we can see right now we're heading down a path where this country, that we enjoy right now, that it's not the same 20 years ago, but people are still enjoying it, is going to change dramatically. It's not going to be the same. And I think this is going to play a really big part in the population not understanding, not grasping what is really happening, not realizing what just happened here. And I think this is going to be something very hard. It's almost like the Matrix when Neo was being introduced to the real world, and he said, they said he's going to pop, he's going to pop. I think a lot of people are going to become very, very upset because I've seen it when people lost their job and they hid in their house for like a week because they were so upset from losing their job. And I think when this, completely falls apart, and a lot of people are living on credit cards, a lot of people have payments up the wazoo, payment for my car, payment for my child, payment for, Netflix, payment for Hulu, payment for this, payment for that, and they have so many different payments. I think when it's all said and done, all of this is going to pretty much disappear for a time. And everyone's going to have to readjust. And the readjustment is where it's going to hurt. We readjusted in 1971. I remember when people were buying houses for $25,000, and then all of a sudden everything was readjusted. They bought it right before we came off the gold standard back in maybe 69 or 68. Oh, I just bought my house for $15,000. And then all of a sudden in 1975, my house is worth $75,000. I went from $5,000 salary all the way up to a $25,000 salary. Good times are here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, back then it was. Now we're on the opposite end. It's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
We're going in a different direction.
Yeah, fiat currency is clearly running its course, Dave. I mean, without a doubt, this grand experiment. I mean, I love how you opened it up when you talked about The Big Short. And if people haven't seen that movie, go ahead and see it. I've seen it 2-3 times. There are people out there that have seen it multiple times. Take notes, and because you got to realize. I mean, remember, Dave, like you and I were there. We were in the industry. Prior to 2008, nobody believed a bank would go bankrupt. Nobody believed. Are you kidding me? You're betting against the housing market of the United States of America? Nobody does that. That means you're betting against the economy of the United States. Nobody does that. That was the mentality, because we've somehow drank the Kool-Aid that good times are here again, and good times are forever. It's in perpetual. Things will always go up and up and up and up and up. Nobody. And here's the thing, Dave. Guys like you, guys like Sean, guys like myself. We're the guys in the trenches. We're looking at every single bit of data from every corner of the world, and we're like one of those crazy guys who just took the time to look. And we began to see an emerging pattern that really troubled our soul, and that's why we're doing what we're doing today. Most Americans don't understand that. They're listening to these talking heads who are doing nothing, Dave. They're doing nothing but forecasting in a bubble.
That's true. I mean, that's all they're doing. And a lot of these talking heads, these financial individuals on TV, and they're all listening to the central bank. They're all listening, they're always saying, well, the central bank, this is good. Yes, this is perfect, and they continually keep the illusion alive. But I see so many things occurring right now, especially geopolitically, around the world. It's really starting to fall apart. I mean, today in Yemen, Secretary of State John Kerry met with Saudi Arabia to come up with this new peace plan, and and it's funny, the United States always comes up with a new peace plan when they're losing. If it's not going their way, like in Syria, they want some type of ceasefire or peace plan. If it's not going their way, yeah, we need a peace plan. You know why? Because we're not winning. So the peace plan this is what John Kerry said. The Houthis must surrender, lay down their arms, and leave the area. That's the peace plan. And I'm sitting here going, okay, this sounds like what happened in Ukraine when Poroshenko said, okay, during the early stages, I have a peace plan. Lay down your weapons and surrender. That's exactly what they said in Ukraine. Now it's the same in both places. And this is not going to happen. And the reason why he said this is because they're losing in Yemen. That puppet government is never going to return to Yemen. The people will not let it happen. They've been pushed too far. And
Right.
the people are, well, you know what happens when people actually fight something in a belief in saying this is all we have left?
Oh, forget it, man.
They'll fight to the end.
Yes.
This is why you see it in Libya. This is why you see it in Yemen. This is why you see it in Iraq.
And
This
Syria.
is why in Syria. I mean, think about how long that's been going on. They will fight and fight and fight until the very end. Because
Absolutely.
they have nothing else. What are they going to lose? I mean,
Nothing.
they already see the other side, what it's going to be if they do lose. So they're saying, you know something? We're not going to let this happen. And when you push people like this into a corner, they come out fighting. And I hope here in America that the people do wake up and they say, you know something? We've been pushed too hard. But right now, the hundreds of millions of people, they've been living a very nice lifestyle. A lot of people riding the market, saying, look at all my profits right now. It reminds me of 2007 going into 2008. I'm flipping houses right now. Look how great it is. Look, I'm living this life. So they're really not in that mode of saying something's wrong, something's not right. It's only the few again.
Right.
The few are saying it. The rest are just doing whatever they do every single day, not really noticing it. And by the time they notice it, it'll be too late. But hopefully as things continue, and I'm not hoping that things get worse. I mean, people, I know I talk doom and gloom. I know it doesn't sound good, but I'm talking reality. I'm talking fact. I mean, these guys like Peter Schiff and all the guys who shorted the market, and there are many others who were talking about this in 2005, 2006, 2007. They weren't saying it to be like, oh, look, it's all going to cut. They were looking at the facts, trying to warn people something is wrong here. It cannot continue. This is what they're saying. Prepare yourself financially, mentally, and this is what we're doing. And I know people out there, oh, it's doom and gloom, it's doom and gloom. So you know what? You don't want to listen to doom and gloom? That's fine. Go to CNN. Go
listen to the unicorn farts and the rainbows. Go listen to that.
You'll get all of that. I mean, it doesn't hurt me. I mean, right. I'm just trying to tell everyone this is what I'm seeing. I'm putting all the pieces together. You're putting all the pieces together. The rest of us are putting all the pieces, and we're all out there saying the same exact thing. Now we might have a little bit of a different story, a little bit of a different way of looking at it, but it's all the same.
Yeah.
That we're heading to this same area.
Yep.
And what I see out in the Middle East, the entire petrodollar system that this whole entire dollar is built upon, it's falling apart rapidly. And I know we've had this discussion many times before, but I already see things playing out in Syria, and I'm in the corner of the United States government, the neocons, the 1%, the elite, the central bankers, whatever you want to call them. For some reason, they're very goal-oriented, and they don't like to give up on their goals. No matter how long it takes, no matter how many people they hurt, no matter how many people they kill, they always come back to the same thing. And the pattern is always the same. Like in Syria, do you really think they've given up on removing Assad?
No.
No, they haven't. I mean, look at the propaganda that's coming out. At the timing of the UN chemical weapons attack report that came out, the timing is unbelievable. It came out the same time that Turkey was invading Syria. And all of a sudden they're saying, yeah, it's the Islamic State, and it's Assad, and the U.S. is out there using the propaganda. You know, we need action. We need something to happen here. We need Assad removed. And they keep telling you what they need. But you have to remember, the United States, through their bombings, they've killed thousands of women, children. They've provided the chemical weapons for all their terrorist groups. They allowed them to torture people, to behead people. They've done all of this. The neocons, the central bankers, are government who wear the nice suits and look all nice and speak well in front of a crowd. Well, some speak well, some don't. Speak well in front of a crowd. Yes, these people, in their soul, they are evil. They are evil, and they use the illusion of being a good guy. And that's how they present themselves. And everyone thinks, no, he's wearing a suit. Look how well dressed he is. Why would he? He's out there with the kids.
He speaks so well.
He speaks so. Hitler was with the children. Hitler was, with the people of Germany.
Right. So was Mao. So was Stalin.
Yes, they all were.
They all were.
Yeah. And look what happened. And here we are today, and everyone thinks like, oh, they would never do these things. No, they just don't report on it. They pretend like if we don't report on it, we're not really lying to the people. Well, no, the actual corporate media is supposed to report on that, not the version the government gives them through investigation, through investigative reporting, looking at the facts, saying, okay, no, the government is wrong. Look what they're doing here. Right. But it's completely controlled today. So they don't do that. But what's happening right now is that these people, their goal, they just always try to reach that goal. And today we see that Turkey, they established I guess they're calling it a security zone in northern Syria. They said this is going to be the security zone, the buffer zone, the exclusive zone, the no-bomb zone. They have many words for it. They keep changing it.
The fun zone. We'll call this the new fun zone.
And we can see their plan has always been to set up and carve out pieces of Syria and separate different sections. And they wanted this no bomb zone, exclusive zone, safety zone, free zone, whatever you want to call it, because they need it to bring in forces. Because what they're going to do is they're going to set up this zone and they're going to use it to launch attacks in Syria. They already have 2 air bases that the United States built in Syria. Now, the United States shouldn't even be in Syria. They invaded a sovereign country. Assad didn't invite them in. The French also built an air base in Syria, in the northern section of Syria. So this was planned all along.
Right.
And I know the United States, they had their terrorist group, al-Nusra, change their names to something completely different. This way they can get them off the UN terrorist list. So Russia would shut up about, hey, separate the moderate rebels from al-Nusra. Now they don't have to do it because they renamed them, and they're not on the terrorist list anymore. It's the same terrorists. There's no difference anymore. And you can see their goal has always been the same. And I don't think they're going to let up. I think they'd rather go down in flames and start a war, because I've been tracking this since I started, and the amount of military assets, the amount of troops that have been moved in Eastern Europe, in the Pacific, in Africa, is incredible over the last 3.5 to 4 years. Mm-hmm. And it's been ramping up. And the only reason you do this is to start a war. Now, everyone thinks, well, they'll just start a war, but you have to remember how these people think. They
think they're
don't
want
to. Well, they do think they're going to win, but they can't make it look like they did it. They can't make it look like they're the ones who actually started it.
Yeah.
And this takes time. You need to position things. You need to have everything prepared. You need to continually provoke. And I can see them continually doing this over and over and over. And it really is amazing how they're doing this and what they're doing right now. The petrodollar it's doomed.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Dave. And these guys are so deluded. They're so drunk off the Kool-Aid. The current crop of neocons that are running the show, these guys were the underlings. These guys were the nobody nothings of the real cold warriors, so to speak. So instead of running on facts, real intellect, and talent, what they're running off on is they're just a bunch of hacks. They're running off on hubris. They think they're going to win any sort of a conflict. I mean, look, right now, the U.S., this was on the news on Foxtrot Alpha, Jalopnik, and they were saying that U.S.'s biggest Air Force bombers flew their first formation together in Asia. I mean, they flew a B-1B Lancer, which is a piece of junk. For every hour it spends in the air, you got to spend like 120 hours on the ground in maintenance. Okay, it's the most unreliable plane in the inventory. The B-2 stealth bomber, which is it's not really stealthy anymore. I mean, there are advanced AESA radars that can catch it. And the venerable B-52, the plane that's older than both of us, Dave. You know, a plane that is a 1950s airframe. And they did this simply because, while they're doing this, they're sailing destroyers and cruisers right up to the South China Seas to intimidate China. This is the most idiotic thing. These guys think that this is the Cold War. These guys think that they can go ahead and threaten their creditor. Well, the thing is that history has shown us, debtor nations should never, ever threaten their creditors, because it's all fun and games until these guys decide to dump the dollar and it's over.
You're right. I mean, we're already getting, signals.
Yeah.
And warning lights and flashing red signals and sirens going off that these countries like China, like Russia, the BRIC nations, they've already started to deal outside of the dollar. They no longer want to deal with the dollar.
Yeah.
And we're seeing this all over the place, and this is what the central bank is fighting. I mean, the Federal Reserve and the U.S. government, they're fighting to continually try to have these countries still use the dollar. And this battle is really between banking systems. It has nothing to do with freedom, democracy. We have the right to sail our ships with the freedom of navigation. What is it? The treaty that the U.S. never signed. None of this has anything to do with any of that.
Mm-hmm.
It all has to do with the Western side, the Eastern side, the two different systems battling out.
Yep.
Who's going to win?
Right.
Because the name of the game is control. Control of the people. That's all it is. I mean, think about it. They put all these countries into debt. They control all these countries.
Right.
They purchase the natural resources on pennies on the dollar once they bankrupt the countries. They go in, they tell the leaders, this is what you have to do. These are the laws you need. This is the austerity. This is what you have to do this. And all these leaders, they have no choice because they're so far into debt.
Right.
And
the one who's going to win is he who has the gold wins. And unfortunately for the G7, aka the insolvent 7, they don't have any gold.
That's true. They have no gold.
Yep.
And China and Russia, as everyone knows, they've been purchasing gold like crazy. And you can see that this is really for an insurance policy, because if anything goes wrong, all they have to do is say, oh, we have all this gold. You know what? We're going to use it. We'll back our yuan, or we'll use it to fend off the U.S. not paying us our funds through the Treasury bonds. They knew what was happening, so they protected themselves.
Right. Exactly. The funny thing is, you brought up a point about about banking systems, right? Well, there's an article here from sovereignman.com, Simon Black's site, where it was just stating that 4 more mega banks joined the anti-dollar alliance. And he said, yesterday I told you that a consortium of 15 Japanese banks had just signed up to implement new financial technology to clear and settle international financial transactions without the dollar. He said right now the most international financial transactions must pass through the U.S. banking system's network of correspondent accounts, basically the FedWire. And you and I both know, Dave, that when we talked about it, the SIPS, the China Interpayment System, bisects. It bisects the FedWire. So if you're a nation getting sanctioned, you can get around it. Well, it turns out now that it looks like the big banks are looks like BNP Paribas, okay, which was one of the banks that was slapped with a major, almost $8.3 billion fine when they were clearing funds for the Iranians. Meanwhile,
Right.
J.P. Morgan, which helped clear every single one of those transactions, They didn't even get so much as a slap on their wrist because they used the Hillary Clinton thing. We did not intend, you
Right.
know. So they get away with it. So BNP's on. Um, believe it or not, the crazy bank from Germany, my favorite bank, Deutsche Bank, signed up. I don't know why. They're going to implode like tomorrow night the way they're going. UBS, my favorite terrorist laundering bank, UBS signed up, and the king of subprime auto loans, Santander, and and good old criminal bank BNY Mellon, Bank of New York Mellon, they signed up, and these are major banks. So for these guys to all of a sudden sign up to non-dollar settlement, they're looking for an exit door. Just maybe they'll have a division or two that they can possibly save when this whole thing goes pop. Good luck to that, right? But the point is that the cat's out of the bag. It's de-dollarize or die. You know, look how many countries have signed up to the AIIB, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. 56 countries and counting. And I think all 7 of of America's allies have signed up to be members of the AIIB. Every single one of them. Great Britain, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, France, Germany. They've all signed up. They said, yeah, we're leaving. We're going to do this. It is a real changing of the guard, Dave.
No, it really is. And also, I was thinking about when you were mentioning all these banks and they're signing up to use this blockchain system.
Yeah.
Part of me is thinking, are they doing this so they can be outside of the system, not just because everything is collapsing, but also to use it for criminal purposes? Because if you're outside of the entire dollar system and you're transacting just between the two, and you're maybe using it for drugs or anything else, the governments, what can they do?
Yeah.
I mean, first, everything is encrypted and everything. They can't really, it's very difficult to figure out. They can't sanction you. They don't really know because you're outside the system.
Yeah.
And you start to wonder, is this the direction they're moving in because they're really into criminal activity?
Exactly. I think it's both. I think it is to continue their operations because they know that the current system with the U.S. Fed wire, it's gonna implode. It's gonna be done. So there's no bank wires or interbank transfers that could take place with a Fed wire. So how do you get around that? Well, you come up with your own closed blockchain. This blockchain will be used by your J.P. Morgans, your Goldmans, your Citibanks, your Bank of Americas, your BNY Mellons. It allows these guys to do their interbank lending, so they can survive without worrying about clearing funds through the Fed, and they can link up with their buddies in Europe. Because one thing that you and I both know, Dave, is that on both sides of the pond, the banks have joined hands with one another, and they said, you know what, this thing is going to go down, but we're going to do our best to take care of each other. And that's exactly what they're doing. Think about it. Like when Hetta Asset Management in Austria, what was about to go belly up, they got bailed in. It was Deutsche Bank that was really putting the pressures on Austrian regulators to bail in the bank. Same thing, we've seen this occur with the Italian banks. One of the Italian banks in southern Italy that recently got bailed out a few months ago. Same issue. It's the other larger European conglomerates that are coming to the rescue of these smaller banks, telling the local regulators, hey, bail them in. Yeah, go ahead. Take the clients' accounts, give them bank shares in return. So they're looking out for each other. What's happening? It's us, the populace. We're not the ones looking out for each other. We're the ones looking out for ourselves. We're too inured by reality television to even be paying attention. It's unbelievable.
No, it's absolutely true, and it's the people that are going to actually end up being hurt in the end. Just like in 2008, it was, how many bankers went to jail? How many the banks were bailed out?
Right.
All the CEOs, they all got bonuses. They all were fine. But think about how many people lost their retirement, lost their home, lost their job, and the government went, all right, well, hey, what are we going to do? No, we can do. The Fed went, you know what we'll do? We'll create more currency, and we'll bail out the banks even further.
Yeah, man.
That was their answer.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Like, look what these guys did to Ohio's pension fund. They eviscerated it. They took a 1.5 billion-dollar fund. They ran it into the ground, and in the process, they charged the pension $780 million in fees in the last 5 years. This past week I was in a meeting presenting precious metals for a pension fund in one of the largest cities in America, and I was invited. So me and my partner from Hong Kong, we flew in there, and here I am. I'm presenting to the board, and one of the members of the board, I'm telling the guy, listen, you got 95 million Americans out of work. You have 13.5 million Americans receiving some sort of unemployment benefit, meaning they're getting an unemployment check week after week. You got 42 million people on food stamps, and he's like, and one of the chairs is like, well, these are just numbers. What do you mean? But you're just throwing numbers at me. What does that mean? And I'm looking at this guy. I'm like, you're an idiot. I just stood there with my eyes open, Dave. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, bro, I just told you, a third of your countrymen are not working. A third. We have a population of 315 million, and here I am basically putting it out there that 100 million people are permanently out of the game. And he's like, hey, these are just numbers. What does it mean? That's how and these people are helping to manage a fund. It's unbelievable.
It really is unbelievable.
Oh, it gets even funnier, Dave. One of the individuals there who was attending, and this, mind you, this is a $1 billion fund, $1 billion. I mean, maybe almost close to $2 billion, right? That they're sitting on, managed by a handful of very awake, very concerned individuals, and then a cadre of morons. One of the morons, goes to my partner, who is one of the largest metals dealers on the planet. The guy just last month, my partner did. I mean, he just did a trade for He just did an order for one of our U.S. clients, 150 tons of silver. I'm sorry, 110 tons. 110 tons of silver. It was incredible. I mean, silver's running out. So one of the idiots over there saying, well, we have in our city, we're having a lot of theft on catalytic converters, and there's palladium linings within the catalytic converters. How do these auto thefts with the catalytic converters? How does that suppress the palladium prices globally? I'm like, where the hell did you come up with that? I'm like, am I really being asked this question? I was in the Twilight Zone. I'm like, first of all, lady, palladium's not a precious metal. Secondly, it's like, you think what's going on in your little city is affecting the global supply of palladium? This is the type of morons that are managing your fund, America. Wake up. It's incredible. And did you hear about this, Dave? Michigan. Their pension fund, you know what they did? They thought it was a wonderful idea to not invest, but literally park $75 million worth of their money in Tesla shares. I can't believe it. But, most of these funds, they won't consider gold. They won't consider that insurance policy. But Tesla, yeah, bring it on.
Oh, my God. It's unbelievable. It really is. When you hear all these different things and the decisions that people are making is just, it blows your mind. It's just ridiculous. And, this is why when we look out into the country and we look at what everyone is doing, we can see why we have so many problems that we have here, why people aren't paying attention to what our government is doing. I mean, it's not that, we don't want to know. Well, maybe it is they don't want to know, but they're not really even paying attention, because there's really nothing on the news that tells them anything. They just think everything is great. They think everything is fine. They think it's going to last like this forever. And nobody looks any further than that. They just believe whatever they hear today. If the government or the corporate media tells me this, it has to be true.
Right.
And it's funny because people ask me, they're like, well, can you prove it? Can you prove that the economy is not doing as well as it is?
Oh my
God,
are you serious?
Oh no, people ask me all the time. You're saying all of this, and how do you prove it? But
you sound like a conspiracy theorist, Dave.
Yeah, but what's funny is So you believe everything that the corporate media and the government's telling you without them having to prove it.
Right.
I mean, really think about it. So you can show them graphs, you can show them numbers, you can show everyone all these different things, but it still doesn't work. People still don't want to believe. And I guess, you know, your mind is like a parachute, and when it's not open, it doesn't work.
Right.
So when people start thinking and they start doing, they're not really trying to figure it out. They don't have an open mind to really say, well, does that really make sense? What the government's telling us, does that really make sense? Does it really make sense for this economy to have 5% unemployment? Does it really make any sense when I see, let me see, that store closing, that strip mall empty, Macy's says there could be closing 100 stores, Sports Authority, they've closed down.
Yep.
Then start using common sense. Well, let's see, if all these places are closing down, aren't there jobs disappearing when they start closing down? Now, these people can't rush over to another store because a different store is closing down. And they have corporate offices. They don't need as many people. And these are the things that we all need to start to look at and think of, like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Why doesn't the government report layoffs? How do they get their unemployment numbers? Why do they count people that have fallen off? What does that even mean? But no one even wants to go the next step. They just stop, and that's it. And this is my biggest worry for everyone. And I know there's a lot of people that are listening, they're prepared, they've been getting ready, but the general population, and I see why, governments, they're getting prepared, telling people to ramp up on food supplies, like Germany. We have France also doing it.
Yeah.
Actually, Obama came out one time and saying, yeah, you should be prepared for some type of, storm or something like that.
Yeah, it's a storm, right?
Or an earthquake. You should have something. But these other countries, they're telling their people, 10 days, because it could be a catastrophe, it could be a terrorist attack, which we know what that's going to be. Not really terrorists, but or maybe the economic system is going to break down. So you need to be prepared. And I see that many of the countries are bringing on more troops, putting them on the streets. They're getting prepared. They know what's going to happen. They realize when the system goes down, people are not going to be able to handle it. They're going to have riots. People are going to lose their jobs. They're not going to be able to, get the supplies they need. People are going to get very nervous. And you can see that many of the countries, they are slowly, quietly getting prepared for all of this, because they know eventually when things go south, there are going to be pockets of areas that are going to be hit harder than others.
Correct.
And they're going to be, things are going to really not go well in those areas. There's going to be
I think LA will fare fine, Dave. LA will be totally fine. A lot of survivalists there.
Yeah. New York City, that's going to be perfect.
Oh, there's 80. All I know is that right before the crap hits the fan, I'm going to make a beeline to my favorite Italian deli, stock up on some prosciutto, some salami, some some mortadella, a little mozz, and I'm running out of there.
You better get as much as you possibly can.
Dude, I've already started. I have a 10-year supply of Genoa salami. I have a 15-year supply of mozzarella, and I'm ready to batten down the hatches here, Dave.
Well, those are good things to have. I mean,
no, brother, you come over. We'll have some bruschetta, some nice olive spread, with some wine, some cheese, some cured meats. Be heaven, Dave. Heaven. You know how it is. You lived here. You know how it is.
You're making me hungry right now.
If you were here, we'd go after the show, and we'd go right to Little Italy right about now.
That'd be really nice.
Oh man, tell me, brother. But you're right, man. You know what it is? It's people think, "Oh, show me the proof," because my shopping mall is still open, and I can go to Whole Foods and I can go to Starbucks on the way back. These things are still there, so therefore everything's okay. That is the barometer for the average American. You know, they're like, they don't see the food lines because the wonders of EBT has made all the food lines go, you know, like vanish. It's invisible. They don't think about foreclosures because they don't realize their neighbor is sitting in a foreclosed home for the last year and a half, 2 years, hasn't even paid its mortgage. The bank that probably has his mortgage probably went bankrupt, and God knows it's been sold so many times down the line. No one has gotten a chance to get out there to kick this person out. This is the situation. Everybody's stretched to the limit, man. And you know what? They still have just enough BS to keep the market moving. And the question that you and I have always been saying is not the fact that we're hanging on by a thread that you should be worried about. The fact that it is only a thread that is keeping this whole damn thing together, that should be the impetus for people to do something to prepare and to make drastic decisions.
It's absolutely true. I mean, the system, right, in my mind and what I've been looking at right now and all the pieces that I've put together right now, this system is worse off right now than it was in 2008. The only difference is they are able to control the stock market a lot better.
Yeah.
Their powers of manipulation and their ability to keep the illusion alive, they learned how to do it from the last financial crisis. And they took all of that and they said, okay, these are the areas we need to control, and we need to control them well. And they have been doing it. And they're able to manipulate the statistics that they give us. They're able to manipulate the stock market. I mean, look at Bank of Japan. I mean, really, they're buying most of the stocks. It looks like their stock market is going to be nationalized, and the Bank of Japan is just going to pretty much own it. There's no free market.
They own what right now? The unofficial count is probably like 52%.
Yeah, it's just the same thing here in the United States. The stock market. I mean, think about it. The corporations, you know, sales are down. They're laying off people. Revenue's down. I mean, look at Caterpillar. It's a complete disaster. You look at many of the companies. They're complete, but the stock market is at all-time highs.
Yeah.
Haven't we seen this pattern over and over and over? If we go all the way back to 1929,
yep,
it's the same pattern. It's the same thing they do over and over. They might have different type of financial securities that they manipulate. They come up with, you know, like derivatives, but it's always the same thing over and over and over. It never changes. And right now, it's the same way. They just found out a better way through computers to keep the system alive. And it's going to look completely strange when more and more people lose their jobs, more and more strip malls are emptied, more and more malls are emptied, and everyone's sitting here going, okay, there's stores, houses are vacant, housing prices are coming down. There's no traffic to housing.
Right.
Something is wrong in this country. They can keep the illusion alive, but there will be a breaking point where it will not make any sense whatsoever, and that first domino, it will tip over, it will hit, and then all of a sudden, those bets on bets on bets, the derivatives and everything else will all start to fall apart, just like we saw in 2008, because the people, they can't control what is happening in the real economy. They can control what's happening in the illusionary world, just like they did prior to 2008. But there was a certain point where the people overrode what their illusion was, and we're going to see the same thing happen once again.
Oh, 1,000%, man. It's shocking to see such a market being this high with no volume.
Yeah.
No volume. And it's the wonders of high-frequency trading and the beauty of margin loans that are keeping this damn thing floating, man. I mean, margin debt is up 600%.
Yeah.
600%. Look at the Schiller PE ratio, right? Remember that thing?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's at, what, like 28 now? Almost? 27, 28, I think it was? You know, when the normal number should be like what 15, 16.
Right.
Unbelievable, man. The danger zone is it's truly there, and that's the only way. Like company, look at Amazon. Amazon doesn't make any money, but Jeff Bezos is worth he's worth billions of dollars based on what? This is a phony baloney economy, Dave. It's sickening. Everything's a farce.
Today, companies don't have to make money.
No, all they gotta do is buy and sell their own shares.
That's it. You don't have to make any money whatsoever. But again, just like they saw, back in the tech bubble, everyone thought, none of those companies made any money. It was, but it always comes to an end one way or another, and it will come to an end. It just will not be able to continue on. It really won't.
I agree with you. It cannot continue, and we are getting to the end of this whole entire thing. It might continue for a few more months, a few more weeks, but that's all I'm giving it. I think 2017 is a critical juncture, man. I think this thing could be, somebody will put the kibosh on this before 2018 because this thing just can't continue. I mean, look at it, man. They're trying to provoke war in the South China Seas. They're trying to provoke war in the Middle East. They're trying to provoke war with the Iranians, like bringing their ships close to the Iranian waters, and just ridiculous. They're looking for Gulf of Tonkins everywhere that you look. These guys are looking for another Gulf of Tonkin, Dave.
Well, I think because they're racing against the clock here. I think that they want to bring this down. They want it their way. They want to point the finger at a group, a country. And they need to. They can't blame the people again, the poor people, the idiots who took out mortgages and all that. That's what they did the last time. So this time, since they've been telling us that we're in this recovery and everything's great, and you're peddling fiction if you don't believe me, and that's what Obama said. Yeah. If they've been telling us all along, even the Fed came out today and said the labor market looks strong. We're on the right track. We might be doing another interest rate hike, and they keep doing that, and of course a lot of it's to get the stock market back up and make it look good, and of course it went up as soon as, and then it came down, but we see this happen over and over and over again, and they're racing against the clock because they don't want something out of left field to bring this whole entire thing down. They want to bring it down. They want to have their story. They want to point the finger, and they're losing. They're losing the battle in the Middle East. They need to provoke, and I think we're going to see this accelerate. And I've said this before too, and those people who have never heard it. I think we have a perfect storm heading this way, especially as we approach the fall. I mean, I said there were going to be August events, and we've seen a attack in Crimea where Kiev sent individuals in to try to destroy the infrastructure. There's a battle going on with the southeastern people right now. They're trying to push the war forward there. We see in Syria right now the coup d'etat, which happened prior to August 1st. Then we see Turkey move in. We saw the battle in Aleppo with thousands upon thousands of terrorists that they brought in. Now we have Turkey who invaded Syria. All of this is happening all at once. Then we see out in the Pacific with the United States provoking China. All of this is happening, and as you watch it in real time, like we've been watching it, it's accelerating. And then we're moving towards this fall. We have an election coming up. We have a candidate that they really don't want in the White House, and they have another candidate that they really want. Clinton, you could tell they want.
The
Trump,
queen of the
they
pantsuits?
really don't. Yes. And I'm not for any candidate. I don't really care because they're not going to run the show anyhow. I mean, they'll take orders, and I think Clinton will take a lot. She'll take all the orders and do what they want and go ahead and do it. And Trump might fight, but I don't think they'll keep him around that long. And I think during this fall period, if it is not going in their way, the way they want, I think that they might try to postpone it, and it won't take that much.
Oh,
it won't even take.
No, all it'll take, Dave, they'll just say, "Oh, we just got hacked by the Russians, and we're gonna have to postpone the elections."
What's very funny is this Zika virus that they keep pushing.
Yes, the Monsanto virus.
But if you notice, it's happening in key states. Like New York said, they found like 20 cases or something of people infected, and then Florida,
and then Ohio,
and then
all the swing states got Zika.
Yeah, which all the governors have to do is declare a state of emergency.
Yeah, you're right.
And really think about it. We don't need bombs. We don't need or anything like that. I mean, if that doesn't work,
Zika.
I mean, I'm sure they have Plan B, Plan C, but if it's not going the way they want, I do believe that they will try to postpone it. And of course, it will be, I like the word temporary,
sure.
Which every time they say temporary, that means permanent. But they will try it if it's not going their way. And we also have coming into the fall, where October, as we know, is not the best time for the market. We've had many crashes. We've had many crashes during this period.
Yeah.
We are seeing similarities from 2008. We're seeing a lot of things all happen at once, and we continually see there's a war brewing in the Middle East. There's a war brewing in the Pacific. There's a war brewing in Eastern Europe. And you put all of these things together with the economy just hanging on, it's a perfect storm. And it might be a complete disaster as we move into this fall.
Right. It's very possible. You're right about that, man. And there's so many variables. The saddest thing is, and I hate to say it, the only thing that could stop the worst things from happening right now is if the dollar collapsed overnight tomorrow, like on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing. If the dollar collapses before these guys get to implement their nefarious schemes, in that case, we'd actually win. It'll be a rough time for us. Many of us will go through a lot of shocking heartache and a lot of upheaval and turmoil. There'll be rioting in the large cities. It will be pretty barbaric, but we'll come out of it, and we'll get to control the narrative. But if these guys get to pull off what they pull off and then collapse the system, then these guys will be able to control the narrative. It's crazy that we're even talking like that. It's the only thing that can save us now from all this chaos is basically the worst forms of chaos at this juncture is that that the dollar gets pulled before the bad guys pull it.
True. And I mean, everyone is nervous about a crash, and the system does need to reset. The system does need to go, because I mean, they didn't let it happen in 2008, and they just actually made it worse over all these years.
Right.
But I mean, if we had a reset where we let the banks fail, we let AIG fail, people would have been out of work. It would have been hard times. Companies would have disappeared. Banks might have disappeared. But you know what? When the system came back, when everything came back and normalized, it would have been a free market. It would have been, everything, the way it should have happened, because sometimes you need things to crash to get better.
Sure.
Especially when you built an illusion, when you built a system that really is designed to crash. I mean, the system that they've created was never meant to go on forever. There was always an end part of this system, because they all know once the system expands to a certain point, like a balloon, it pops. And we're there. We're at that point.
No, you're absolutely 1,000%. This thing has already been inflated, and it's only millimeters that are left before it pops at this juncture. Millimeters. That's how much more expansion could happen right now. It's very close for comfort, man.
It's true.
Very close for comfort.
Absolutely true.
But Dave, let's we got about 2 minutes left. Why don't you give out your contact info, how people could reach you, and all the other good juicy stuff, and what are you up to these days? Go for it, buddy.
Okay. Well, if you don't know, my website is x22report.com. I have 2 YouTube channels. It's X22 Report and X22 Report Spotlight. Spotlight is where I do the interviews. I interview different individuals. I interviewed V. I interview many different people. So you can go over there and you can take a listen. I also put up articles on the X22report.com site. You can you can go there and you can read. I also have News Sentinel, where I'm feeding in news outlets from around the world. I bypass the corporate news outlets and I bring in news outlets from different countries and different alternative media, videos, so you can get a sense of what's going on. And I have a section where what news story is trending, what's the most popular, so you can get some idea of what is going on and what you're seeing. And I do my report Monday through Friday. I do one on the weekend. I usually release them around 6:30 or so p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can go right to the YouTube channel. I usually have graphs and pictures, videos with my reports, or you can listen on the website. It's an MP3, so you can download it if you have an iPhone or something like that. So you can find me pretty much in any of those places.
Awesome. Dave, thank you so much, man, for being on. It's been so much fun. We got to do this again, bro.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. This was great.
Oh, it's a lot of fun, Dave. It's always a lot of fun with you, man. Thank you so much. All right, folks, thank you all for listening in. I want to thank all of you guys for listening. I want to thank Dave once again. I want to thank my producer, CJ. We'll be back again next week, and we will be returning to the Mornings with V broadcast because I am back in town and I am back in action. With that being said, God bless you all. Have an awesome weekend. This is the Gorilla, over and out.